Hi everyone, this is Chani Sims and I'm the founder of CISO. Today we are having the first guest speaker for our International Women's Day series of webinars, and Amy Lemberger. She's going to be talking about importance of flexible working for security teams. Hi Amy,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. You?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us. I know it's like the home time, normally 8 o'clock, but it's nice to have you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Cool. So just wanted to, before we start, just a quick introduction about what I do. So I'm a cybersecurity consultant, and I'm also working for well, CISO is my passion and my give back initiative. So this is kind of my volunteering work. But I'm managing director for Meta Defense Labs, which is a cybersecurity company. And CISO is an open give back platform that we've designed to get the community together and also to help each other and support and make it a safe place for not just for women but also for men as well. And CISO stands for, if you look at the logo, it's she and he, SNH capital. That means she and he both. And CISO stands for Chief Information Security Officer. Exec means executive in short. So what we're trying to create is a talent pool of emotionally intelligent cybersecurity leaders. We believe that it's important that we have good cybersecurity leaders to fight the evolving cybercrime. I'm not going to talk too much. So I'm going to pass it to Amy to introduce herself and just talk about her background, what she's doing, and how you got to where you are today, Amy.
Okay, so I suppose start from the very beginning. I went off to university to do a very sensible forensics degree and found that there was going to be no jobs in my chosen field of study, and so very irrationally swapped to digital forensics on day 2 of university in 2004, and then graduated having learned everything about at the time incident response and network security, and was very fortunate enough to go off and work in a high-tech crime unit for a police force, which was astonishing, being able to kind of work and actually actively catch the bad guys, as you kind of like imagine it on the telly, hunting out.
Wow,
Yeah,
that
it
sounds
was
quite
really cool.
exciting.
It was really exciting. I loved it, and you actually kind of got a really huge sense of fulfillment from the job. So I did that for 4 years, but there's not actually a huge career in it. So once you've done it for 4 years, that's kind of or at the time, that was it for the police force.
Really?
Yeah, so unless you start running the unit, and actually that's usually, at the time, it's not so much now, but that tended to be kind of it. There was one of you of 15, and I wasn't ready for management at that point whatsoever. I was still kind of, as far as I was concerned, quite immature in myself and in my thought processes. There was already a very competent leader running the unit. So, of course, it was, for want of a better phrase, dead man's shoes. So I then, I'd always kept my interest in network security alive. So forensics tends to be very dead box kind of systems. So an opportunity came up in BT to work in their computer emergency response team, so their CERT, which was basically network forensics, and kind of working on their global network on how to do incident response and incident management. For people who aren't really aware, BT is actually in 190 countries. It's not a BT British Telecom, British focused company. So I got to work on cases from anywhere from Venezuela through to Asia and our Indian subsidiaries. And it was a huge amount of fun. And I did that for another kind of 3-4 years. And then the position for managing the team came up. And I was fortunate enough to have been picked, for want of a better phrase, to actually take on that position. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't part of my career plan. I'd intended to stay very, very technical, but BT and the area were going through kind of a major growth spurt. We were going to go from 4 in the set to 20 within 12 months, and they needed someone to do the recruitment, the drive, and understand really how the team could evolve into the business. So the obvious choice was someone within the business to actually run the team. And I was fortunate enough to have a huge amount of coaching and support from 2 of the managers that were already there. So I took on my first team, and I've never really looked back. I find I really enjoyed helping the people around me just do their job better. So I was always a very good investigator, but there were people there that could do it so much better than I did. So watching them develop how they did their malware analysis, because I could get them the right tooling, because I could write a business case, to me was just as important as being able to do the malware assessment myself.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to do. I did that for a few years, and I was given a few more extra teams. So I built the security training function inside BT. So we, like CISO for pipeline, we were building the pipeline for all the analysts to come through our security operations centers. And it was just a really cool environment where I was getting to kind of help other people and help build a team and the capabilities that BT were using. And about 2 years ago, I was approached to come to my current role, which is working for the GSMA as their cybersecurity director. And the reason I was thoroughly enjoying what I was doing, but this was, the GSMA is the trade association for our industry. They're incredibly influential, huge impetus within the industry. So when I was approached to do the role, it wasn't really a choice of saying no. I had to come and see whether I could do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of a jump from here to here. Can you do it? Should you do it? What's the worst that could happen? And 2 years later, I'm still doing it. So my focus is working with the industry. I work with 700 operators across the globe. It's not just a case of working with BT. I get to work with all sorts of different people around the world, helping them improve their networks. So it's an extremely unique role that I love. So I suppose that in a whistle-stop tour, starting out kind of really technical, but being willing to kind of say yes to different opportunities, I think has led me to be where I am.
That's amazing. I mean, I remember when I did my forensics training first, I had kind of similar dilemma, like, you know, do you want to pursue this path or not? And then some of the options were, you know, being a witness, cyber witness in the court. And that sounded like a really horrible job.
I've done it.
You've done it?
Yeah, I've done it. I've stood up in court. I've done.
Oh, wow, you're brave.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly intimidating.
Yeah.
Terrifying, but yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was like thinking about it, and I was even talking to a lawyer about it, and you know, they were saying how they can like really grill you down to things that you don't want to even look at things after that. And I thought, no, I mean, English isn't my first language, and if I go and stand in front of court and say this is what it is, and I will not survive. You know.
Mine was standing still. I had to be trained to stand still because I don't. I tend to use my hands a lot, and you're not allowed to do that in court. You have to stand.
Oh, really?
Hold
Okay.
yourself quite very still and kind of use. You even get taught how to look and who to look at. So it was a big change for me.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It just sounds terrifying. But well done, you've done it. So I think that's really great that you know, you had that technical background to then doing the management. I also went through a similar path where I was also techie and then went into more doing lots of other things and involved pushing yourselves to your boundaries and learning the soft skills, which is great. And it's actually head of security at BT, Paul, who recommended I reach out to you.
Yeah,
She said you're amazing. Yeah. No, that's
he's
really
always
good.
he's always been a huge advocate of mine. It's lovely.
Yeah, he's really nice. So I was talking to Paul about this, and then she said you should talk to Amy. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna. It was good timing because I was just waiting to announce it, and and then I met him just before that week or something, and then it was good. Then I reached out to people, and since I published the calendar, it just taken on, and there's only like 1 or 2 slots available.
Oh,
1
wow.
month's gone now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we got quite a nice set of nice people joining us to do the podcast, and it's going to happen like every other day. So I'm going to be quite
Wow.
busy. I didn't copy the details, but there's going to be quite a few ladies joining and doing different topics and podcasts. So you are the first one to join. Yesterday we had the launch kind of, Nicola and Suki talking.
Yeah, they were amazing. I enjoyed it. It was good.
That's good. So myself and Diana and Dida will be hosting. So some of them they're going to be hosting, and some of them I'm going to be hosting. So it's great to have you, and thank you so much. I think it's we got to so we got 2 minutes before you start your talk. Just wanted to ask, what would you think like the most important skill in your job?
Oh, in all my jobs actually is communication.
Yeah,
So
I
if
could
you
not agree more.
yeah, so I learned quite quickly when I moved into management that when I spoke in my technical language, all my guys thought it was amazing, but my managers didn't understand me at all. So although I had a really strong coach as my first manager, he wasn't technical. So he ran security operations and he ran the entire department as a non-technical leader. And he said, I don't need to be technical. I need
Yeah,
to trust all of you guys, and you need to be able to communicate with me. He said, and
yeah.
once we have those things, he said, everything works. And he was right. I learned to communicate with him. I learned to communicate with the business because of him.
That was one of my first lessons as well. Learn to communicate, because I was just like that, talking, sounded like Greek because people don't understand what we're talking about. And then often you go and intimidate them because you're talking too much tech. So I had to actually practice to pretend that I'm talking to a 5-year-old.
Yes. Yeah, I always pretend I'm talking to my mum.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a 5-year-old. And then do it that way. It was very difficult, I think, especially for technical people to come out of that. And it took me about a few years, and I don't think I'm probably there, but still it's just it needs improving. I think it's a ongoing learning curve.
No, and nobody teaches you. So when you become a manager, I mean, the one thing that I find it was that unless you have people around you that are willing to share their experiences and help you, there's sort of no transition from techie into manager, like tick box course you could do.
Yeah. So we have a module at the CISO bootcamp. It's called Talking Tech to Business and vice versa.
Awesome. There you go.
Yeah, it's just all the things that I never had. I put it there. You can see.
So all this goes through my mind. I'm like, where were you when I was?
Yeah. So I wish, I was there when I decided. But anyway, where we are today. Do you want to start with I see
Yes.
we got the time, so I'll shut up and then go on mute so you can
Oh,
continue with
no,
it.
to talk to me while I'm doing it as well. So feel free to ask me questions because
Sure.
this is kind of an area that, so by way of background before we start, I've never run a physical team. All my teams have always been remote, which means everything I talk about with flexibility, I talk about from a position of experience more than kind of book learning. I know this can work. I genuinely believe flexibility with your team leads to better teams.
Yeah.
So what I want to cover today is kind of what flexibility means, not just to me, but in general, why it matters to a team, specifically why it matters to a security team. So there are nuances with running a security team that I have noticed over the years. And really end with sort of challenging some of the myths around why you can't be flexible, and then challenge people to be more flexible when they're considering people's requests.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get going. So flexible working. What flexible working is actually something that is not the norm. So if your normal week is Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, flexibility or flexible working is anything outside of that. In the same way that we're new modern kind of ways of working where they're saying, well, we've gone to a 4-day week. If that 4-day week is still prescriptive, so Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5, it is not flexible. It is now the new norm. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is where you step outside of your norm to help people run their lives and live the life that they want to have and need to have, yet still perform well as a team. Okay, so this isn't a case of, well, we just give you Friday afternoons off. That's not what people are looking for. People need to understand how this can relate to their work and their life.
Yeah.
So flexibility matters. It's not a case of, oh, well, people are just asking for flexibility because they fancy it or they want it. So if you actually look at our circadian rhythms within our body, we have what's called productive time. And actually, if you're in a meeting past kind of 90 minutes, you'll feel yourself fade. You'll feel your concentration lapse. You'll feel that you suddenly start getting more distracted by things that are going on outside of the meeting. And you'll feel your energy level go. So we've all been in that meeting room where the energy level goes and you can't understand really why the ideas aren't coming anymore. It's because we have a rhythm in our body. And the most people can concentrate to is 2 hours, at which point they need to walk away, they need to get up, they need to recharge those batteries, they need to go for a walk 5-10 minutes. So when you're doing workshops, make sure you're planning these in. But not everyone is the same. So the person you think may be distracted at 60-70 minutes, it might be that their rhythm is just different. And if you're not paying attention to these flexes and these ways of working within your team, you won't know how to get the most out of your team.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. So, for instance, I know one of my guys, he is up super early and he wants to do everything before 9 o'clock. So I meet with him at 8. So I'm getting the best of him. Another one of my people on a different day, so that I'm not working too many hours, she wants to meet at kind of 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So everyone has these cycles. And if you want to run a really, truly effective, flexible team, you need to just not know your own, but know your teams. Because then you start putting the right people together when they're working collaboratively. You start putting the right thought processes into the way you're running a team. It's just not about just outputs. So as well as that, your internal clock and kind of the way you ebb and flow, we'll have all heard, are you a lark or an owl?
I'm definitely an owl.
See, are you? I'm a lark.
Really?
I cannot. So this is actually the time when I'm probably at, I'm winding down. I've had to really focus on staying sorted for 8 o'clock. I couldn't go home from work. I had to stay at work and kind of really say, right, okay, you need to stay with it till 8 o'clock so you can do this webinar.
Right.
Yeah, but if you've got me at 6 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't even think about it. I would be kind of like going through everything. And me understanding that means that when I'm talking to my team and I'm sending emails out at 6 o'clock in the morning, because it's when my brain's going absolutely crazy, I recognize that actually does intimidate those people who don't get their body going until kind of 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is interesting when you actually try and run a team, because you need to understand who's who. And actually finding a time that suits all the different people involved. So it's not just about cultural time zones, it's actually about body and rhythm time zones as well. So on top of that, we'll have all spotted this. So Monday, you come into work and you're feeling very creative, you're feeling very productive, you're feeling on top of the world because you've rested over the weekend. And slowly as the week goes on, that kind of creativity kind of goes out the window. But very often you'll find that there's no flex. You're expected to be as creative on a Friday as you are on a Monday.
Yeah.
It's so realistic. I think I do my best work on a Tuesday, because Monday it takes me like time to ramp up and a thing. And Tuesday, Wednesday I'm on it. Thursday I'm a bit like, oh, well, maybe not.
I think
now.
my peak is kind of in the middle as well. So Monday is just like very low. Okay, and it just slowly comes up, and then Friday goes down. But then again, I'm a workaholic, so I just work. I don't have time to work or sleep. My brain just works. I just work.
So,
But yeah, it's an interesting curve.
yeah, so I mean, whereas I can't do that. I love my work, and you could argue a workaholic, but I need my rest, I need my downtime, because otherwise I just don't function. And
Yeah,
I learned that a long time ago about the way I am. So it's understanding all of these nuances, but the true point of flexibility is that it's Noel Gallagher that actually says this. I was quite shocked when I found out it's his quote. But the reality of the situation is, unless you're in your position where you're running your own business and it is your kind of baby,
yeah,
people who work for you, they're coming to work to earn their wages and live the life that
yeah.
they want outside of work.
I say this all the time, you don't live to work, I live to work. When I hear that CISO morning about CISO's going depressed, alcoholic, that article that went on, I thought it was
Yes,
so
yes.
pathetic. Why would you do that? You
Just don't do
totally
it to yourself. Just
exactly.
learn enough about yourself. Like, I know when to switch off. I know when to go for a run. I know
Yeah,
when to stop. I mean, if I look at one of my team and I think you look tired,
yeah,
go and have a nap.
yeah,
There's nothing to stop us saying as a team leader, you look tired, go and rest 10, 20 minutes.
yeah. I think
We
naps
want the
work so well.
best. Yes. So I think the best complaint I ever got, and I tell this story quite a lot, is that literally I had a complaint that one of my staff was found asleep in a meeting room that he'd booked out legitimately. And I just wrote back and I said, I'm pleased he had the grown-up behavior to
Yeah,
go and take him away from the operational floor and have a nap. So
yeah. I used to do that as I remember one time. I was trying so hard. By 3 o'clock, I used to be like, I want to sleep, right? And I fell asleep in a data center.
but that's what I mean. And how bad is it that you fellas whereas at least this guy took himself away from the operational floor. So nobody saw him, nobody knew he was doing it. But apparently they've studied it, and apparently we're at our very, very worst at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and it's their power naps. They're so good. But the moment you wake up, you do it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
When you're up, you're like all like energy and everything. Power naps really work.
Yeah, they do.
And the most embarrassing part from that was I was sleeping and my team was taking pictures. It was funny. So luckily at that time, internet and Facebook wasn't that big.
Thank goodness. I am
Yeah, thank
quite
you.
pleased I'm not from the generation of Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, but I do. I mean, when I get your point so well because our body clocks work different time zones. Like when I work, we have office in Sri Lanka, so I sometimes work from there for months, and they wake up before the rest of the world. It's like 5 hours before. So when we wake up, UK is still sleeping like 4 o'clock or whatever. But I still get my work done because I go to all the meetings, get things done. You come home and then lunch and have a nap, and then start this UK hours. So that nap kind of gets you more energy again. And I saw somewhere in a article, someone said that if you have lots of naps during the day, like tiny naps, it actually keeps you going um, longer because you have more energy.
Yeah, they've got to be kind of like their cat naps, so 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Anything over that, you go into REM, and you kind of it's really, really interesting. If you actually sit and study energy and the way it works and how you can be effective as a team manager, it's fascinating.
yeah,
And it really helps you understand yourself, and it helps you understand how you're going to bring the best out in the people who work for you.
yeah,
And I mean, the reason this is really important is because security teams are different. And I say that having watched a lot of my friends run standard teams, like HR and business ops and things like that. Security teams are different. They have different energy. They have different needs and desires. And really coming into security, you've got to have a passion for it, because let's face it, we lose a lot of the time.
yeah.
We do fantastic work, but we are seen as a burden on the company because we're always saying no.
Yeah, the cost.
Or we're a cost.
Yeah,
And sometimes the attacker wins,
Yeah.
or the red team gets us, or, you know, and then actually you come out of it and you have to have a very, very good perspective on life. Which is why I think flexibility is hugely important for security teams. I genuinely believe that flexibility leads to more creative thinking. So, for instance, if anyone's run a threat hunting team, so I've run a threat hunting team, you can't put a threat hunter behind a desk and say, by 10 o'clock, I want to understand what you found. It doesn't work like that. They need to sit and have time to immerse themselves in the problem, to consider where your gaps are as the industry, to work out where an attacker might come in, and then study. And they really need to just immerse themselves in that situation to understand what might happen. And that might mean taking themselves off for a day. So my threat hunters didn't need to come into the office the days they were threat hunting. You can work from home, you have your own time, you know, relax, immerse yourself in the topic. Come back to me outside of this and tell me what you find or how you think we're going to go about it. I do it now with my industry analysts. Don't come to me after a day. Come to me after a week when you've really, you know, had some creative time, really immersed yourself in the topic and kind of understood what's going on. CISOs, for instance, you cannot have a 5-year plan and a business model in security. Does not exist.
No, I don't think it works.
No. So we have these really changeable proximate objectives as senior leaders within security. And that means we have to be creative. If you showed me a CISO that spends 5 days of the week, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, sat on the ops floor and still gets to have their kind of objectives and strategy done, I'll be amazed, because I think you need time away from it to understand it. Also, with the flexibility, one thing that really frustrates me is that we all talk about this pipeline problem. We all talk about diversity, inclusive, what can we do? And then when someone says, well, actually, it would be really good if I could work 7 3s every day, because then I can pick my child up from daycare, I can do this, I can do that. And we say, no, you work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We have a pipeline problem. We have 3.5 billion jobs.
I think 4 million now.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous number of jobs.
Yeah,
it's a ridiculous number of jobs. But we're not being flexible with people. We're saying, no, you work how we want you to work, not how you want to work.
Exactly. And then also looking for the unicorn, right?
Yeah.
So you never find those people. Plus, in cybersecurity, you need to have passion. If you don't have the passion, it's just like you're not going to be productive in the team. And when you find these people, you often find there's different types as well, like neurodiverse people. They're really good at analytical things and stuff. So you can't get somebody like that to then stick to a box and say, look, you only work for these hours.
They can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It does not work. And
we talk about inclusivity, and I don't think that's being inclusive or flexible.
No, and some of the best people you're going to get really want to work for you.
Yeah.
They have everything you can possibly need, apart from the ability to sit and stare at a screen. It's crazy. I mean, and people who want to, growth and retention is intentionally the biggest one here, because they've already shown that wages are not enough to keep somebody in a security role. You can pay them all the money in the world. If you do not give them the area to grow, to develop, to be themselves, then you just won't keep them. It's not enough. So there's a lot of studies around this kind of pyramid of purpose, about how we want to be as human beings, how we want to achieve more than just eat, sleep, repeat. And actually, where we spend so much time at work, offering this flexible environment where people can achieve their potential and be creative. I think security is a perfect way of being creative. But we need to offer that flexible environment, a flexible framework to allow them to be this creative person. You can't be creative in a box. It doesn't work like that.
No, I mean, a lot of people don't get that concept. You know, they still, do you think it's because security is like still new topic? And then
yes. Yeah, and the thing is, it's trying to evolve while it's just growing so fast, and it's such a new industry.
Yeah.
But that's also why we have the chance to be more flexible, because we don't have the rules that have been there for 20 odd years.
Yeah, I mean, rules are there to be broken anyway, you know.
Exactly.
And why do you have to stick someone? Like, I sometimes think, well, I've always had flexibility in all the companies I work, most of them. If I didn't have, then I don't work. That's simple as that.
Exactly.
Right? I want to go to do my shopping even I want to do it, but I also make sure that I deliver what I have to deliver on time. So it's having that flexibility to have my life plus, you know, make sure that I deliver what I have been asked to. So, you know, you're clear about your deliverables. Um, Something I also noticed here is that psychological needs, food, water, warmth, rest. So some of the security teams, I think Diana would be able to explain a bit more about this. Like, you know, when you start investigating something, it could go for hours and hours,
Oh,
even
yeah.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, where is your breaks? How are you going to do that? If you don't give that flexibility for people to take their rest and also work on things, I don't think 9 to 5 jobs fits with security at all. Uh, like even with my brain gets active at 12 o'clock at night. Uh, it's like that's when I get really most creative.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I sometimes have that problems where I can't sleep. Like it's just thinking too much, and I had to go on mind maps,
Yeah.
pick things in the morning. Then there's a whole mind map of stuff I want to do, you know. And that's what some people work on. You know, if you don't give that flexibility, you don't get the best out of that person. Like you said, creativity comes, you know, when it comes. You don't
Yeah.
like plan it.
And I mean, and really, flexibility is a two-way street. So you touch on long-standing incidents. There was one I did that was kind of 3 or 4 weeks, and you were having to really put the time in every day.
Yeah,
And if it really is a two-way street. If you're flexible with people, people will be flexible with you. So when
yeah.
you need to ask them for that bit extra, they're more likely to give it to you if they understand that you're not, you know, running them into the ground every 5 minutes.
Yeah, true. It,
Um,
it's a good, interesting chart you got there.
Yeah, no, so I love this pyramid of purpose. I use it quite a lot if I'm trying to work out really this and the Start With Why book really kind of helped me understand how to get the most out of a team, because you deal with the people and then you work out what you're going to do with them and why they're going to be doing it, and actually give them a purpose. It works really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, just by talking to some of the people in the industry in here as well as in Asia, I've seen like here people are more kind of they know what they want, and then, you know, they're happy with what they're getting. But when you go to the other parts of the world, first thing they get paid really bad salaries
Yes.
for what their qualification, no matter how many qualifications you got, but you still get paid really bad salaries. And people are frustrated because they don't have the right opportunities, the right salaries, and they go on about then looking for other jobs that gets them out of that. Um, but when you talk to them, what makes them happy is that support, help them grow,
Yeah.
the personal development side of things. But companies don't realize actually, you know, you need to support these people to gain those skills and train them. They don't invest in training, and it's really sad. Like they think security is just a cost, but they don't look at the assets they've got right in front of them. You know, how do you train these people? Because sometimes it's just about giving somebody a training course to go on, because they
Yeah.
don't have the money to pay for it. They get because of the bad salaries. But if you can sponsor that person to go on that training and learn something, you're actually building that person up, and you're retaining your talent rather than complaining about, oh, I'm losing my talent, I can't keep people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone needs that sense of purpose and the development. I want to now move on to a little bit of a different topic, and that is around flexibility when it comes to actually the working week. And I'm going to say something a bit contentious, but the working week we made up. We made it up. So we work in an environment like this picture here.
Mhm.
So these are wonderful. I bet this is exactly what a lot of people's offices look like. If I showed you the camera of where I'm sitting now, it would look very similar. We like drop-down desks. We like to work together. We like to be creative. We like to, even if I brought up a SOC operations room, it would still be very open plan. Yeah, our working week relates to this environment. It relates to a factory.
Yeah.
The working week was 40 hours, and it was put in place in the 1940s so that factory owners could guarantee and agree local agreements with their staff that if they gave them a weekend, they would not come to work drunk during the week. Genuinely why the working week was defined. So they said, right, okay, so if you behave for 5 days, we will give you the 2 days off, whereas before they worked 7 days.
Right.
And this will be your working week. And that was how it was formed. It was all local agreements. And then the likes of Henry Ford took it on, so Fordism, and manufacturing, and then it became the norm. So
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. So the norm became what it is now. And now we have this idea of excessive hours is 48 hours, and we have the Working Time Directive in Europe, which everyone in security signs a waiver for. I'd like to point out. just highlighting that fact. And so we live in this world where we've given ourselves a confined working week. And there's actually scientific studies now that say if we did a 21-hour week, we could be just as productive, have less carbon emissions, have less unemployment, and have lless problems within society. Yet we are still stuck with this huge idea that we have to work 40 hours a week and they have to be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And I just want to go into the next part of our conversation, challenging that very arbitrary viewpoint on work based on kind of flexibility and security needs. Because I think that actually people need what people need. And if they need Tuesday afternoons off because they help their husband with something, let them have Tuesday afternoons off. It's really not going to impact their productivity. If they're somebody you can trust.
Yeah. I think some of the challenges I hear from management is that they can't trust their employees to do what they asked to do, because they think there's, like, I've spoken to CEOs and C-level people who say they're really against working, giving them the flexible working element, because people misuse that, and that is true in some cases. People do misuse, and it's also about what kind of KPIs you set, and then what kind of values you got in the company, so that people are aware that they respect those values.
So you're preempting exactly what I'm moving on to now, and that is what stops us being flexible. And now I'm not blind to it, and I have been bitten by people I've shown trust that haven't deserved that trust. So I hear this a lot. Human resources processes stop me being flexible. In the UK, you have a legal right at 26 weeks, so half a year's employment, to formally request flexible working. And your employer has to give you a very, very good reason why they won't give it to you. So I'm yet to meet a sensible human resources person that doesn't agree with flexibility. And I'm yet to be micromanaged by my HR department to say I cannot do some of the flexibility things I've done. I do think that we hold HR up as a reason not to do something when we've never actually tried to do the thing.
Yeah.
I think the honest one is distrust.
Trust. It all comes down to trust at the end, right?
Yes,
I've been
exactly.
burned.
So exactly. So it's not a case of I'm not naive about this. And very often, actually, the distrust comes from a bias. And the reality of it, if you're really honest with yourself, did you hire this person? Because if you hired this person, you have all the processes they went through to get hired. You have your sense of character and your hiring capabilities. Why are you then distrusting them when you bring them into the position?
Yeah. That's so true, right? If they haven't done anything, to prove your point, then you still have to trust them because you hired them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now I can understand a new team, you're going in, you don't really know them very well. I can understand that you would lead into this I'm not saying go in and just say, yeah, everyone can do what they want. But if you've hired this team and you believe in your management style and you feel confident in the way you're doing things and the purpose you're bringing to the team, is it not more of a bias against something a bit different, a bit, change that might make you a little bit uncomfortable? And I call that out of sight, out of mind management. So if my people are out of my sight, that does not mean that I care about them less or I don't think about them. However, I've been managed by people when I'm not present. I know that they haven't considered me in a decision. They haven't thought about what that will do to my role or what that will do to me.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is technology. People do not use technology enough to allow flexibility. So collaboration tools, VPNs, remote storage, all of those things can enable flexibility. So if you don't feel that you could send someone home, it's a perfect test at the moment. There's a lot of people with coronavirus that are saying, oh, well, we're not set up for remote working because we can't access our central server. There's no excuse for that now.
No, I don't think coronavirus is really going to test businesses on their business continuity. I mean, if you still don't have capability, unless it's a factory, for people to work remotely, you're going to really get into trouble because it's just need one staff member to go on sick and you're quarantined.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So the way I want to challenge this is what we can be to be more flexible. So I've listed a few here, and your point about objectives and output focus and purpose is actually the way I've always done this. So I don't need to measure how many things you've done, as long as I explain to you as a solid manager where I expect to get to and set agreed stretching goals and deadlines. I know whether you've done enough work because you've met the deadline. How you've structured that work and when you've done it doesn't matter, as long as everyone understands the deadlines and everyone understands where they're going. And there will be times where you need everyone to just pitch in and get on with it. But actually, for the majority of work as a security team, you can organize yourselves.
I agree with that. Yeah.
The owls and the larks thing is really interesting when it comes to self-rotoring. So if you've got core hours, the way we did it in the police was some people wanted to come in at kind of 10:06, and some people wanted to come in at 7:03. And our core hours were 8:04. So as long as there was enough people in between 8 and 4, it didn't really matter, everyone in between. So that was kind of staggered hours, self-rostering. A big one I'm a fan of is time off in lieu. So if people work on a Saturday and they want to take a Tuesday off because it suits their family life more, what's the problem?
Yeah. I think this is where some people really like to micromanage, go into everybody's lives and gossip about it, and then go into all that. It's not necessary. I'm someone, I hate micromanaging, and I don't care what my staff
don't have the energy.
Yeah, I don't have the energy. Exactly. As long as I see, okay, you've delivered what you asked for on the time that I asked for. I don't care how you did it, in a bus or a plane or wherever, in a bed. I used to often work from bed. That was like the best hours you put in and then do your work done. I can't agree more.
Yeah, but there are still managers I talk to and they say, oh no, unless I see them, they're in the office, I don't know what they're doing. Well, okay, then you've not set their objectives properly, because if you don't know what they're doing, you don't know what the output's going to be, which means you've sort of failed in your role more than they failed in their role.
Yeah.
I'm really kind of strict about this sort of thing. So I suppose to summarize for me, flexibility isn't about letting someone do less hours. It's about working with them and their unique body clock, their unique life, the unique ways of working, to make sure you get the most out of them, to therefore create a really, really highly performing team. And I've been in high performing teams, I've run high performing teams, and I've never had a problem, apart from the occasional oddball. And as I say, I have been burnt, but I tell you what, for that one or two people who burnt me, I've also had 40 or 50 people that have been absolutely phenomenal. Flexible working. So next time, as a manager or as someone in a situation where someone's asking for a little bit of flexibility, just don't automatically go to the easy answer of no, it doesn't fit with my norm. Ask them why they need it. Ask them what they're trying to achieve, and see if there's a way you can actually say yes instead of no. Because as security people, we get to say no a lot. It's much nicer if occasionally we can say yes.
Yeah. And you get more out of that, and even the loyalty, because you've been treated like how you want to be treated, not just
Exactly.
like a, how do you say it, like a robot,
Yeah.
9 to 5 worker. I think that's really old fashioned. I remember my mom, she had to rush before 8 to clock her. She used to work for a company. She was a senior clerk, and all of her staff, they have to go and punch.
Wow.
And they often cheat. They will, someone will say, I've heard her call a friend or somebody calling saying, I'm running in late, can you clock in for me?
Exactly. It just breeds bad behavior. People
Yeah,
work
exactly.
around the system. You can either be open and honest and flexible with people, or they can work around the system, and then you don't build trust, and there's no. Oh. So I genuinely believe in flexible working. I genuinely believe it's the way to have the best sort of team you can have.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a fan of flexible working. Even when I first joined IBM, it's all about like managing your own time and then doing what you have to do. And you learn a lot of time management as well, because okay, whatever you do during your time, um, you still have to deliver on this. But if you finish early, you still got more time to do other stuff. And
Yeah.
it motivates you to do better and faster, and sometimes work on extra things. And it's such a good way sometimes, especially with people with kids. So
Yes.
and they find, I think I feel so bad when I see people like having to get up like 5 o'clock in the morning, get their kids ready, and then go to school, drop them to school, and then go to work. And then you can make their life so much better
Yeah.
if you just allow that kind of little bit of extra thing. All you need to give them is a laptop and maybe a VPN connection, but you're
Exactly.
getting more out of the people, allowing that capability. I think it's just the old-fashioned way of thinking, people being more traditional and not open to looking at things differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 10 minutes. If we want to ask questions, guys on the listening, so do you like to ask any questions? You can go off mute, I think. Okay, Clive.
I don't really have a question, just wanted to really agree with you on something. So when you hire someone into a team, it's because you're generally lacking that skill maybe. So you want to hire someone that's better than yourself for your team, so the rest of you can learn from that person. So then why would you then end up going and micromanaging them afterwards? I mean, that would just kill any creativity anyway.
Exactly. But we see it done time and time again. The amount of creative people you listen to, and they say, "Oh, I was hired to do this, and I'm not being able to do it because they're not working with the way I think. So they've hired me for my thought process, but now won't give me the flexibility to have my thought process."
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's like I've had these occasions where I actually had to walk out of some of the consultancy. Well, one of the consultants I had to kind of walk out because you hire a consultant to come and do a piece of work, right? And they come here for a short time, and then you know that yes, that person has this specific skill set that you don't have, and you're going to come and do it. But then if you come in and try and boss around people and say, no, I want it this way, so you can't do that. They're going into managing micro. I just don't get that part. I've had occasions where people would try to micromanage me, and I mean I don't mind that, but it's like you're not getting the best out of me. Then you're trying to getting me to do what you want to do. Why not then get a intern to do that piece of work?
Yes.
Right? Because then they're learning something. And also not being flexible, like telling. I agree with the concept where sometimes when you're in a room with the team it works. There are occasions where yes, you need everyone in a room and then
yes,
doing
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I completely agree. It's just, it doesn't have to be every day between specific hours.
Yeah, exactly. And when you need that, yes, you get the people in and then you go through this, like things like design thinking workshops. You
Yeah.
need the people in there. But in security, you know, if you're doing focusing on something, finding a problem or finding a fix, then you need to isolate yourself and then think. I sometimes find if I'm in a really noisy office or like people shouting around or on their phones and I can't concentrate, then you're kind of not productive at all. You're just looking at the screen for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what to do, because some people's brains doesn't work and I have to either put music on or concentrate. Or and employers don't go into that kind of detail of thinking levels, and um, so it's really unproductive ways of working, in my opinion. Diana, do you have any questions? Cool. No, I think that was really informative, and then it's really good topic that we discussed, because we always talk about it. No one actually does a presentation like this to actually show these are the facts. And so thank you so much, Amy. And I think we covered quite a lot, and I really like the fact, because this is something, even today I was talking about this with one of my clients. So it's good to actually, you know, have this discussion and talk about things. My team is, we are 100% remote. We are kind of all over the place. It's a good thing about it, but we communicate and we still get things done. Um, I hardly meet these people. I mean, some of the team I meet only like once or 6 months. Whenever I go to Sri Lanka, or when, you know, when I whenever I see them, I don't need to see them every day because I know we still get things done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think, what do you think is going to impact how with the coronavirus?
So I think there's going to be a lot of people that the rug is pulled out from underneath them and they're expected to go to this model and they are not ready for it at all.
Yeah.
And productivity is going to go down.
Yeah, that's really going to hit, I think, a lot of companies, especially the businesses who can't operate remotely, you know, like restaurants and things. They're really going to struggle, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's even a solution, because how can you do restaurant working, waitering remotely? You can't, right?
No. There's certain things that you just can't,
Yeah.
just can't happen.
But I think there are a lot of IT accounting companies, they're still out there who are not doing this, the flexible working hours. And I think they're going to really struggle in terms of business continuity if something goes really wrong.
No, and the thing is,
evacuate.
they haven't trained their staff on how to do it and how to do the transition between being a home worker and being an office worker, because it does feel different. I mean, when I first went to be a home worker 7 or 8 years ago, it threw me, you know, how to actually switch off, how to actually move from, you know, the same house being my work and then, you know, actually having to relax it, you know, in the evenings and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of very confused people.
Yeah, I think it's about getting that structure in place. I used to have that as well. Like, I would get so tired just because I didn't know how to switch off.
Yeah.
Like, I would start from the time I get up, and then I'll have my laptop in bed and just working. Forget breakfast, forget lunch, and then I go and eat something, and then come back, and then still working in your pajamas.
Yeah.
And you lose that structure. So I got to a point now, I kind of balance it. I still like get ready like I'm going to work, and I have a separate place allocated, so I make sure that I work from there or in my bed, so that, you know, I'm looking forward to go back to my bed when I'm ready to sleep. Otherwise I can't sleep. It's funny, is when you spend too much time working on the bed, you just get yourself confused thinking, where do I sleep, you know? So I'm sure there will be people who go through the same cycle.
Yes.
And I think it's so easy, so much better to have that structure saying, okay, you have a separate place to work, you have a separate place to rest and sleep. Otherwise, I mean, it's way how you work, I think, as well. Some
Yeah.
people, you know, don't mind.
And that took how long to master for you? And now we're going to throw an entire industry into just doing it overnight and expect it to succeed.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Oh well.
I don't want to sound cynical.
Yeah. So it's time to so it's almost done, I think. So thank you very much
Thank you for
for
having me.
joining us, and it's I think really enjoyed the talk. So it's good. So I'm going to be publishing this soon, and if you like to join the CISO team, we are on LinkedIn. There's two pages, CISO company page and CISO group, which is for members. So if you want to become a member, there's no fees or anything. It's completely free to the community, and it's info@cisoexec.org. If you like to speak or volunteer or become a sponsor, or I don't know, whatever, or just be a member, just join us and reach out to us. And we are open community, so we're trying to make a difference in the industry. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.